So, yeah, even though we were, I was not in, was qualified in education at that time, I was very much involved in the community and the Durham District School Board at the time. And so we had started an organization back in the early 90s called Basic Focus, and that was building a safe, integrated community. And through that, we were involved in education at the school level, and safety as well. I remember at our children's school, we even gave a trophy that was in honor of a safe community. So that's still at our children's school, and so that was awesome.
Excellent. How did that, beginning these volunteering experiences with your wife in the early 90s, how did that evolve into where we are now in terms of eCamp?
Right. So after finishing my degree at University of Toronto, that is my Bachelor of Education, because after my job went away from me, I wouldn't have left my job, by the way.
Yes.
When I was working in medical technology, I would not have left. But the job left me, so
yes,
it was time to go and do something else. And that worked out really well, because you know what? The passion for education was very clear. In a laboratory setting, I loved the job, but at the same time, the impact that you could have on young people was somewhat limited.
Mm-hmm.
And so this now gave me the opportunity to have direct contact with young people, that you could actually have a long-term impact on their lives.
Yes.
So that was great. And taught for, I'm now teaching for some 15 years.
Wow.
And while still on the job, I was able to go back to university and finish my doctorate in education in science and technology education. So that was quite an accomplishment for me. It was not easy, because with a family, all the challenges and so on, it was really, really difficult. But you know what? I was one who was determined, and of course with the support of my wife, to make it. And I did. In 2010, I got that doctorate, and I was ecstatic. Now, Dr. Clarke.
Yes.
And awesome. And you perhaps were at my school when I got that degree, and how it felt. So
that's excellent to hear. I understand, one of the pillars of eCamp is mentoring. And so that's the idea of being inspired by somebody who's perhaps in a field that you're interested in going into, and learning from them how to become the person or go where you want to go. In terms of your life, who has been your inspiration?
Well, you know what? My mother has been an amazing pillar in my life. And even though her level of education was by far less than grade 8, but the values that I've learned from her is amazing. So I have to say she had a lot to do with it. I also have a cousin by the name of Pt.2 who went into law and himself became a judge. And even though he did not, he perhaps never thought that he would perhaps a mentor of mine, but I looked at the work that he has done and how he moved forward in his own career. And that was an inspiration for me. And we had several conversations from time to time, and he was indeed an inspiration for me. I look back at those times and I say, yes, indeed, he was a mentor for me.
Yes.
So I know that it makes a lot of difference. And what I know is that some children, some young people do not have that individual in their life, close to them anyway, that they can say, okay, I've seen the walk that you have walked, and I think that that person would be a great inspiration for me. Some people don't have that. After finishing my degree in science and technology education at the doctoral level, my research was in mentoring in science and technology, and it was a result of the University of Toronto summer mentorship program in the Faculty of Medicine. And I was able to follow some of those young people who had mentors in that field. Because what was clear, that in the Faculty of Medicine, there were a lot of people whose faces did not look like me. There were a lot of white folks, but they were not able to, there were not, no, hardly any black faces when you look at the walls.
Yeah.
And so there were, Miriam Rossi, for example, was one of those who was at the time the associate dean in the Faculty of Education. And there were some young people who were part of an organization, the Black, it was Black Students, Medical Students Association. And they actually started a mentoring program. And that was amazing because whereas there were one or no students in the faculty at the time, after that program started, it certainly made a difference. And so you'd find students who, there were now 3, 4, or 5 students in the faculty. And there's one particular young man who I interviewed and asked him about his journey in the Faculty of Medicine. That was an amazing story. That, I think, is on our website in terms of his journey being mentored. So I studied that particular program and made some recommendations and find some theory behind the whole idea of mentoring. And today I'm using that whole notion of what mentoring can do for people to make a difference in the lives of young people.
Yes. And it's very important to balance what you value as a person and what you do as a career. And I feel like you're able to distinguish the differences between those two things. In terms of your life's purpose, what is it that you value most in your life?
Values make a whole lot, make a difference and your purpose in life. The decisions you make is to a great extent based on your values. And a lot of our young people sometimes are looking to TV personalities for guidance in terms of what will my life look like. And unfortunately, they don't necessarily have the values that will take you to where you will need to go. Mm-hmm. So it is important that I stand on the shoulders of giants. There are people who have worked very hard to get where they want to go. Here in Canada, there is Lincoln Alexander, for example, who have gone to places that in the area of politics and government, and a number of others that you could perhaps think of. And young people see those individuals, few they may be, but are able to say, you know what, I can get there as well. It's interesting that even though Barack Obama is the President of the United States, but the fact that he's where he's at today has impacted the lives of many young people.
Yes.
Inside the United States and outside. And because, he's shown that I can make it. You can make it too. Myself, I know that I am making a difference to the lives of young people that I come in contact with on a daily basis. Because, of the things that we are doing through eCamp mentoring. And speaking about how this actually evolved, it started off as an organization, which is a for-profit organization called SOS Action, back in about 2008, while I was still working on my doctoral work. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine, I was still teaching, and there was a friend of mine who is also a teacher by the name of Peter Gordon. We started to talk about sharing our passion. He was, still is, an avid coach in basketball. And you know what, we thought, how could we share what we have and engage young people? And so I was in the area of science and technology and mentoring, and he was in coaching in sports. So we said, you know what, there's a number of young people who are engaged in sports, but in terms of their schoolwork, education, not so much. Mm-hmm. And so how do we blend this? And that's how we blend sports and school, SOS Action, and started that. Over the years, though, we realized, a few years, we realized that, the area of the mentoring was taking off. And so Peter branched off into the sports area, which founded ballforall.net, which is moving along quite well today. And I continued to working with the area of mentoring and started the organization eCamp Mentoring, which stands for Electronic Career and Mentoring Program. It's really a play on camp, but it really stands for Electronic Career and Mentoring Program.
Mm-hmm.
So that's amazing. We were incorporated in 2013 and had our first program back then, 2013, where it was launched downtown Toronto. And that was quite an event when we launched the event. We had the Honorable Jean Palestine, who was our guest speaker at the time, and our first Guiding Star Award was given to Dr. Miriam Rossi, who is an amazing individual and has done tremendous work in the Faculty of Medicine. And to a great extent, a number of physicians would say she was responsible for the tremendous work.
That's excellent. I want to bring us back just a couple steps to, you said the value in having somebody who is in a position that you want to be. You mentioned Barack Obama, which is sort of like a symbol of motivation for all the young people who perhaps have aspirations of getting involved in politics. And I know that you've done various events in the community, but you've placed an emphasis on preserving history. What is the importance of history?
History is very important. It's important to see, to look what it's been like in the past, and look what it's like now, and what will it be like in the future. In terms of the past history, we have little or no control over where we come from. I'm from a poor family, and I know it was really, really hard for my mother, who is a mother of 7 children, I being the last one. By the way, my mother is now almost, is going to be 102 in October, still moving along very strong, and still very, tremendous motivation for me and the rest of the family. And so having those individuals in your life and knowing that, you know what, I might have been born poor, but I don't have to remain poor. You have little or no control over where you come from, but you have control over where you want to go. So you can use history as a guide to your present and a guide to the future. So I think it's important to know where you're coming from so that you can navigate the present and the future. So I think that is very, very critical. Navigating the future, saying, you know what, I came from here, but I can go there.
Yes.
And a lot of our young people, especially in minoritized groups, blacks and Aboriginal people, who sometimes do not have enough role models or people or mentors that they can look up to, are at a disadvantage. And so there was, in fact, a need for an organization like eCamp Mentoring that would certainly give young people who don't have that a hand up, a leg up. So this is where eCamp Mentoring comes in.
What you're doing is incredible work. You're giving opportunity to young people to grow, and you're opening up many different avenues that people can take in their lives, whether it be learning from mentors in sports, science, and also coming to a greater understanding of the history, because as you said, history is very important to preserve, not only to understand where you are, but where you came from. Where do you see where we're going?
In terms of where we're going, I think we have done a number of Black History Month events at my school and in the community as well. And until we get to the place where Black people are given the honor that they deserve, we cannot stop. Until we get to that place where, yes, there's a need to honor and a need to say, you know what, you're not just there taking up space, you're there making contribution. And so that our young people can have others to look up to. We are not done yet. And I think the future is bright, I'd say. I'm trying my best to touch as many lives as possible. And I say to young people, when when a gift is given to you in terms of mentoring, when somebody does a kind deed for you, it's incumbent on you to help others. It's expected. It's expected. You need to do it. It's not something that is optional. So if I have touched 19 lives this summer, the opportunity there is for 19 more, and then 19 more on that. So it's a multiplicative effect that we're having. So the onus is on you for succeeding, succession planning for the future. It's not just about your life, but it's about others, passing on the mantle. So that's important.
Dr. Clarke, I'd like to thank you very much for partaking in this interview. I greatly appreciate your answers. And on behalf of VCAT Mentoring, we would just like to thank you for being a part of this wonderful documentary that we are making.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.